Welcome to this BFI at home to celebrate the 20th anniversary of one of the greatest TV shows of all time, The Wire. My name is Amon Warmann, and I'm a contributing editor at Empire Magazine. We are incredibly honored to be joined now by the creator and lead writer on the show, and to have this opportunity to discuss this groundbreaking show with him, the TV legend known as David Simon. David, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Okay, David, let's get stuck into this amazing show. I was reading up about it, just the casting of this show, putting this incredible ensemble together. And I read that Lance Reddick actually auditioned for Bunk and Bubbles before being cast as Cedric Daniels. I read that Michael B. Jordan auditioned for Bodhi before being cast as Wallace. When you look back at creating the ensemble for the show, is there a what-if element to it all that you think about?
Oh yeah, there always is with every show. There's always a what if. I think the one that always amuses everybody is that we were ready to offer the McNulty role. We hadn't yet seen anything from Dominic West. We hadn't seen any audition from him, and we had an initial idea of offering it to the actor John C. Reilly, which is a very different McNulty. We got very, I had a conversation with him that was very brief. He called me when I was in a corn maze, if you know what that is, in America. It was before Halloween, and I was with my young son at the time, running around this cornfield in a maze, trying to keep up with him. And that's when Riley called me back, and I tried to have a conversation. I said, "Well, look, call me back in an hour." And I couldn't get him on the phone after that. Apparently his wife had said to him, "There's no way I'm moving to Baltimore for 5 years." When we moved on, and when we saw Dominic's tape, it was a completely different McNulty. It was more Jack the Lad than sort of working class, sort of, trod upon. But it worked. And so you're always maneuvering. You're always seeing something and saying, well, what about this? Or would he work as that? Everything down to the smallest roles sometimes contains some element of surprise.
Yeah. The first season does a really good job of establishing the world and the storytelling of The Wire. And it's a storytelling that really takes its time. What would you say is the biggest challenge you had to overcome in that first season, introducing that ensemble and introducing the world and the storytelling that you did?
I think the biggest challenge was expectation. I mean, people were used to television being framed in a certain way, and the pace of television being of modern television being what it is, and still largely is. And we were trying to effectively, instead of doing a series of short stories, episodic short stories, we were trying to write something that was the televisual equivalent of a novel, in the sense of chapters that build. And a story arc that goes across the entire length of the season. And so you're looking at episodes, like the last episode is not a big cliff, it's a denouement. It's an ultimate episode where you have it's really structured as in the way that a modern multi-POV novel would be structured. And the expectation on the part of, even smart television programmers, of which HBO had plenty, was being upended in some ways. I remember a note that we got after the head of the network read the 5th script, because I think they had 5 in hand before we started shooting the pilot, or maybe just after we shot the pilot. And after reading the 5th one, he said, we're gonna order the show because the scripts keep getting better. And I thought to myself, the scripts are the same. It's just that the first chapter of a novel, if any novel that you know of, the first chapter doesn't reveal all. The first chapter is the opener. It's the opener, basically. And you'll meet you'll meet your POV character, and you'll meet a little bit of the world, and you'll have an encounter. But expectation was our biggest threat, really, there.
Yo, what's up with shop?
No re-up.
Why not?
Cause we got a red cat. They say we have a new package tomorrow.
New package?
Yeah. Yeah, man, this week I stepped on shit. We got out here, get these fiends agitated.
Well, look at them. They still buying it, though.
Yeah, they buying twice as much and only getting half as high.
Yo, what was that? Castle can't move like that. Yo, Castle move up and down or sideways like.
Nah, we ain't playing that.
Man, look at the boy playing checkers.
Checkers?
Yeah, checkers.
Yo, why y'all playing checkers on the chess set?
Yo, why you give a shit? Man, we ain't got no checkers.
Yeah, but yo, chess is a better game, yo.
So,
Nah, hold up. Y'all don't know how to play chess, do you?
so?
So nothing, man. Look, I'll teach y'all if y'all want to learn.
Come on, man. Nah, come on. Right in the middle of the
Calm
game, yo.
down, chill out. I want to see this.
Y'all can't be playing no checkers on no chessboard, yo.
All right, man.
Now look, check it. It's simple. See this? This the king pin, all right? And he the man. You get the other dude's king, you got the game. But he trying to get your king too, so you got protected. Now the king, he move one space any direction he damn choose, cause he's the king. Like this, all right? But he ain't got no hustle. But the rest of these motherfuckers on the team, they got his back. And they run so deep, he really ain't gotta do shit.
I like your uncle.
Yeah, like my own. And you see this? This the queen. She smart, she fierce. She move any way she want, as far as she want. And she is the go get shit done piece.
Remind me of Stringer.
And this over here is the castle. It's like the stash. You move like this and like this.
Dog, stash don't move, man.
Come on, yo, think. How many times we moved the stash house this week? Right? And every time we move the stash, we gotta move a little muscle with it, right? To protect it.
True. We right. All right. What about them little bald-headed bitches right there?
All right, these right here, these are the pawns. They like the soldiers. They move like this, one space forward only, except when they fight. And it's like this. And they like the front lines. They be out in the field.
So how do you get to be the king?
It ain't like that. See, the king, stay the king, all right? Everything stay who he is, except for the pawns. Now, if a pawn made it all the way down to the other dude's side, you get to be queen. And like I said, the queen ain't no bitch. She got all the moves.
All right. So, if I make it to the other end, I win.
If you catch the other dude's king and trap it, then you win.
All right, but if I make it to the end, I'm top dog.
Nah, yo, it ain't like that. Look, the pawns, man, in the game, they get capped quick. They be out the game early.
Unless they some smart-ass pawns.
One of my favorite scenes in the entire run is the chess scene in season 1. And when I talk to a lot of Wire fans, that's also a scene that they point to. Why do you think that scene in particular has had the staying power that it has?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a good metaphor for what those three kids in the pit were facing in terms of their own circumstance and in terms of the tactics and strategy of a game we all know. I mean, I think in some respects that scene gains power once you're at the end of the run. Anybody who thinks back on it or who ever has the opportunity to watch it again, once you know what happens to D'Angelo and Bodie and Wallace, then it has resonance. It has real resonance. I think it would have been just a little bit of a writer's device without it actually being contextualized by the story we were about to tell. Because in truth, we knew, to be fair to us, we knew what was going to happen to those characters. So,
yeah,
we were writing something that had, it was there for a purpose.
Absolutely. Another memorable scene in season 1 was the infamous fuck scene with Bunk and McNulty, which I will never ever tire of watching. When you first told Wendell and Dominic that they'd only be able to use one word for a 5-minute sequence, what was their reaction?
They were giddy. I mean, it's really an actor's. I mean, if you think about it, it's an actor's exercise. It's the kind of thing that you could imagine a couple of good actors being challenged by. It's the anti-soliloquy in a way. A lot of actors, they wait for the great the great speech in a play. This is something very different, and it only works in television. You couldn't do that on the stage. You couldn't do it with the same sense of intimacy because it's so linked to stuff you're seeing, to intercut shots that are explaining what got missed in that murder scene. You know, they're going to dig out the missing bullet. They're going to find the missing casing. That stuff's too small to play to the back row of a theater. So you have actors who have done theater work, you know, Dominic and Wendell, but you're basically saying to them, trust us. By the time this thing cuts together, it's actually going to tell a story. So it was fun. It's actually based on a moment I had as a reporter where a detective sergeant in Baltimore, a homicide sergeant named Terry McLarney, who's a very wise man in his own way. We were once standing around at a crime scene when I was writing the book Homicide, and he said, you know, listening to the profanity swirl around him of all the cops and people there, he said, you know, we're going to get to the point where all we need to do is say the word fuck, and we're going to understand each other perfectly. And I sort of laughed a little bit, but I put that in my back pocket. And I thought to myself, this could be something to use one day. And I mean, at the time he said it, I wasn't in television. I didn't know where, maybe a novel I was going to use it, but it was a very funny remark. And so when we had the show, I thought to myself, let's do this. And it's Ed Burns who constructed the logic of the scene. You know, it's all of the fucks were scripted. And then once we got the footage back and we started cutting it, we added a little more in post. Whoever wasn't on camera started muttering the word here and there just to fill out the scene.
Oh, fuck. Motherfucker. Motherfuck. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Fuckity fuck, 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 fuck. Fucker. Oh, fuck. Fuck, fuck, fuck. Fuck, fuck. Motherfucker. Fucking A. Mm-hmm. Motherfucker. Fuck me.
It worked of charm. It worked the charm. The change in storytelling style in season 2 is really, really interesting because you got all these characters that you built up in season 1, and then you put them on the back burner sense to focus on the docs. What motivated that choice, I guess, and did you feel it was a risk at the time to do that?
We really weren't writing a police show or a police procedural in our heads. We were trying to critique American society and our politics and what's become of our country in a very basic way. And so we needed to build the city and build the city's problems and watch those problems be unattended
Right.
and ignored and manipulated statistically and disregarded for the sake of personal ambition or whatever. We needed to show our dysfunction. So the idea of just, the show had to grow, and the show had to start encompassing different parts of the city, and it would have to do that throughout. That was just the first bump where we basically revealed that particular ambition. I think a lot of people had expectations of what the show was or wasn't. And we just had to ignore those and go where we were going. I don't think the style of the show changed at all. I think, what changed was we just, we sliced off a different piece of Baltimore.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I want to talk about Omar a little bit because one of my favorite Omar scenes, period, is in season 2 when he's in court, which is a very neat summary of the game. And Omar is such a colorful character.
Mr. Little, can I ask why you came forward in this case?
I told the police what I know.
Were you offered anything in exchange?
Like what?
Were you arrested? Were you going to be charged with a crime, and by testifying, did the police agree to drop those charges?
Nah, man, ain't even about that.
How many times have you been arrested as an adult, Mr. Little?
Sure, I done lost count. No, don't have to take it personal.
Possession of a handgun, possessing a concealed weapon, assault by pointing, robbery, deadly weapon, possession of a handgun again, followed by violation of parole on weapon charges, followed by 1 count of attempted murder and use of a handgun in commission of a felony.
That wasn't no attempt murder.
What was it, Mr. Little?
I shot the boy Mike in his hind parts, that all. Fixed it so he couldn't sit right.
Why'd you shoot Mike in his hind parts, Mr. Little?
Let's say we had a disagreement.
A disagreement over?
Well, you see, Mike thought he should keep that cocaine he was slinging and the money he was making from slinging it. I thought otherwise.
So you rob drug dealers. This is what you do.
Yes, sir.
You walk the streets of Baltimore with a gun, taking what you want when you want it, willing to use violence when your demands aren't met. This is who you are. Why should we believe your testimony then? Why believe anything you say?
That's up to y'all, really.
You say you aren't here testifying against the defendant because of any deal you made with police.
True that.
That you're here because you want to tell the truth about what happened to Mr. Gant in that housing project parking lot.
Yep.
When in fact, you are exactly the kind of person who would, if you felt you needed to, shoot a man down on a housing project parking lot and then lie to the police about it, would you not?
Hey, look, I ain't never put my gun on no citizen.
You are amoral, are you not? You are feeding off the violence and the despair of the drug trade. You're stealing from those who themselves are stealing the lifeblood from our city. You are a parasite who leeches off
Just like you,
the
man.
culture of drugs. Excuse me? What?
I got the shotgun. You got the briefcase. It's on the game, though, right?
With that scene in particular, what stands out to you?
It was one of those moments. We were really enjoying Michael Kay's performance all through season one, but we understood what we had by the end of season one in terms of fire in a bottle. We had this extraordinary actor who had found the character in such a fundamentally human way, and had this elan, and the character was drawn in such a way that it was one of the few characters that wasn't beholden to an institution in the piece. So viewers rightly identified with the character as being among the most honest and among the least compromised. So once we had that moment, we thought, if he's going to go on the stand, it has to be more than what he's going to say about Bird. It has to be more than the actual facts of the trial. And once we realized we were going to have that moment, and he could speak to the hypocrisies inherent in our drug prohibition and how it's enforced, and who profits, it just became fun. We had very good actors everywhere, and we let him ride. And yeah, it was great. The whole setup, McNulty is supposed to get him some court clothes to wear, and he lets him spend it all on a tie, and he ties it almost as if he's a World War I fighter ace going into battle. The whole thing was just it was really fun to do, and if you don't miss Michael Kay, I can't help you.
No, Michael Kay, complete legend. Unfortunately, we of course lost him a few months ago. Are there any especially fond memories of him when he's not on camera that stick out to you when you're working with him on the show?
I wrote about this when he passed. Michael Kay was somebody who even I misapprehended the depths of his commitment to the content, to the message. I work with a lot of talented actors, and it's a great joy. But many an actor comes into a moment, and they're or into a project, and they're concerned about their character and their arc, as they need to be. They got to live in that space, and they fight for it, and they believe in it, and so they're looking to see how their arc will be serviced and what kind of work they'll have, and count the lines in a script, sort of thing. And Michael Kay, I misapprehended, at the end of season one and beginning of season two, when he saw the scripts and that we were going to the docks and we were going to do the death of the working class rather than stay directly on the Barksdale narrative. He was distressed, and he came to talk to me, and he said, why were we doing this? And his argument was, look, there are all these, there's 400 shows in America that are dealing with normative, majority white America. There was this one that was dealing with the plight of the underclass and what was going on in the inner cities, and why were we veering into the white working class, or into portions of, I guess it was a racially mixed working class? Why were we doing this? Why were we abandoning our mission? And I had to, at first I thought, oh no, listen, you're going to have work. And I started to soothe him with reassurances that we weren't done with his arc. And he said, no. I'm not worried about me. I just want to know what the show's doing. And so I realized I owed him a bigger explanation. And so I sat down and I explained what we were trying to build and how this was necessary and how the show would stay small if we didn't start building the city. And he took all this in, and then he not only accepted it as legitimate, he then went back and became sort of an ambassador to the rest of the cast, many of whom were having the same feelings. And he said, no, you know, they're doing this and they know what they're doing. And this is the chance for the show to actually be something more than some sort of police procedural, no matter how cool or how interior a view we think it is. Still a cop show if they don't do this. And he became an advocate, and he stayed that way for the rest of the show. I've never admired an actor more for his allegiance to the entire concept of a project.
Message said you'd be here. Still, kind of thought it'd be one of your minions showed up in the flesh.
You calling some of my papers paper?
I was just working. Doing what a man is supposed to do.
I know you've been busy. Caught some talk from them young men you rousted over there on the west side.
That was about a gun, belonged to a police.
Yeah, caught some talk about that too.
This here, it's about something else. Girl by the name of Tasha got her head blown off in a firefight. If you're not here to cooperate, then why are you here? Okay, I could just pull up that other girl from your squad.
She ain't gonna talk to you. Ain't nobody gonna talk to you. I just came in to make that clear, man.
Ain't no thing. Because I already got me an eyeball wit.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that. Old Bruiser, he be blind behind that 45 half the time. Shit, you got to dry him out just to get him on the stand. Besides, he done had a change of heart to that story. That's what I heard anyway. Shoot, past that, y'all gonna have to call this one of them, cost of doing business things y'all police be talking about all the time. You feel me? No taxpayers. Shoot, the way y'all look on things, ain't no victim to even speak on.
Bullshit, boy. No victim. I just came from Tasha's people, remember? All this death, you don't think that ripples out? You don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. I was a few years ahead of you at Edmondson, but I know you remember the neighborhood, how it was. We had some bad boys for real. It wasn't about guns so much as knowing what to do with your hands. Those boys could really rack. My father had me on the straight. But like any young man, I wanted to be hard too. So I would turn up at all the house parties where the tough boys hung. Shit, they knew I wasn't one of them. Them hard cases would come up to me and say, "Go home, schoolboy, you don't belong here." Didn't realize at the time what they were doing for me. As rough as that neighborhood could be, we had us a community. Nobody, no victim, who didn't matter. And now all we got is bodies and predatory motherfuckers like you. And out where that girl fell, I saw kids acting like Omar, calling you by name, glorifying your ass. It makes me sick, motherfucker, how far we done fell.
Season 3 brought one of the ballsiest ideas the show has ever done, which I absolutely loved, which is Amsterdam. Where did the inspiration for that come from?
Well, we'd read a certain amount of like, drug policy sanity that was coming from Europe in certain places. I mean, in varying degrees. There was, I think, Zurich, Amsterdam, later Portugal. I mean, you guys have experimented in some ways with, practical rationalization of the realities of drug use in a way that my country has never successfully done. So it came in some sense from some early experiments in Europe. But it also came from the reporting that Ed Burns and I did when we did The Corner, and we went out to watch it, policing in the drug-saturated area of Baltimore, and realized not only is the drug war unwinnable, but it's also whatever drugs have not destroyed, the war against them is managed to tear apart brick by brick, including law enforcement. I mean, it's destroyed quality policing in my country. So the whole show had, these weren't the themes of the themes of the show. I think were more sociological, but if the show had any political message, it was, end the goddamn drug war.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed incumbent upon us to at least undertake to experiment with what such a thing might look like. So we had Bunny Colvin experiment. That was it.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of trying to do things a bit differently, Stringer Bell is one of my favorite characters in the entire show. And season 3 is really interesting because you really do begin to see how he's got one foot in the game and one foot in the business world. What did Idris Elba bring to the role and that dynamic, I guess, between those two sides of the character?
Well, it's funny because he read originally for Avon Barksdale. And
right.
Once we saw Wood, we were like, no, that's our Avon Barksdale. That's our king of the streets. But what Idris had was some degree of street. You believed he still could have come from West Baltimore or Pimlico or Cherry Hill. You could believe he was local to Baltimore, and he nailed the accent pretty well. But
yeah.
But what he also had was there was a polish to him. There was somebody who was trying to move outside of the drug game, and it was trying to imagine a world beyond a world. And you got that sense of him, even as he moved, even as you saw him walk through the pit or walk past the high rises. And having cast the two of them together, Wood and, Wood Harris and Idris, we really wanted to play that dynamic that one of them was trying to become, in some sense, the brains of the transition that could be imagined between an illegal enterprise and the legal world, and how you launder the wealth of one into the other, and how you thrive in the other. And we left that, obviously that happened in the last season with Marlo. He gets to go where Stringer didn't get to go, but Idris could do that. Idris, you could believe that Idris could have that ambition. You could believe that he would have economics texts on his, in his apartment somewhere. So we had an actor we thought could bridge that.
Yeah. I think you're right. You've proven right in that regard. You mentioned Marlo there, and I think he's a fascinating character in his own right. Was it a conscious choice on your part to make him really different from the Barksdales and the Stringer Bells in terms of his demeanor and even his ruthlessness?
Yeah, I mean, we felt as if he had come to the game. We felt as if he was sort of a little bit next generation in the sense of Barksdale and Bell, and we imagined getting into the game by hunger and by necessity, and the sense of two smart kids coming up, in West Baltimore who they wanted the brass ring. They wanted what they wanted, and they were going to get it. But what they were going to get was the wealth, the idea of amassing amassing the wealth that could come from an illegal enterprise, carefully sustained over time. We tried to imagine the next degree of socioapathy, which is, it's not even about the money anymore. It's about the name. It's about the reputation and the exotic notion of it's not merely about walking into rooms that other people won't see. It's about everybody knowing who you are, and we gave that motivation to Marlo Stanfield.
Yeah, no, that final speech that he has in the final episode really hits home for the reasons you say. One of the four is the evolution of Prez. When we start out with him in season 1, he's a much different character to the teacher that he becomes. Do you have a favorite version of Prez, and how do you go about switching?
You're not supposed to like him in the beginning. He's he's incapable as a police officer on the street.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically if you keep him in the office and you keep him on theory and you let him stare at some stuff, he's not stupid, and he actually can focus. But he had no business being a cop, or if he was going to be a cop, he was going to be a disaster. And we played that pretty consistently all the way through. We also played the idea that he was capable of guilt, which granted him something. He ends up blinding a guy in the 3rd episode, and upon being confronted with the guy later, is ashamed. And there are some police who would not have been ashamed. So we gave him at least the capacity to understand that he had been vile and brutal. And we sort of tried to make him semi-conscious of his own incapabilities on the street. That's a pretty tough thread for an actor to undertake. I would say that what we had, Jim Truffaut did great with it and came out the other side and could be this teacher who wanted to believe in his mission, even as things were going disastrously in the school system. In some respects, what I have to tell you is Jim was really a great actor, and we were enjoying working with him, and we could have brought on another actor. We could have just fired Prez and brought in another actor to be our teacher. But we thought, no, we know this guy and we can get the work out of him. So, I think in some ways, we kept him around to do those last 2 seasons with us as a teacher. I'm glad we did, but in honesty, to ask somebody to go from that kind of bad policing to that kind of coherent life as a teacher, how many people in real life could make that journey? I don't know.
No, he did a fantastic job. You spent a long time battling to keep this show on air between seasons, which still blows my mind, because how does HBO not realize what they have? But did you go into season 5?
In some ways they did, because nobody else did. We had no viewers. And they very practically were saying, look, after season 3, why snatch defeat from the jaws of victory? We've gotten great reviews. The Barksdale story is seemingly over. We'll give you money to go do something else. We'll put something else on the air. This is never going to be a hit. And they were right in the sense of broadcast. They were. Nobody anticipated the long tail of DVD sales and streaming and all, what happened. So on a practical basis, they were right. And yet they did know what they had, because they let us have the first 3. And then they let me walk back in to a meeting with Chris Albrecht and Carolyn Strauss and sell the last 2 seasons. They let me do it twice. So they did that on basis on story and on what they had, not on what it was giving them. In terms of, it wasn't giving them Emmys, it wasn't giving them numbers.
What must they be thinking now, looking back on all the successes the show has managed to garner in the ensuing years? Must be interesting.
Fire in the bottle, who knows? I replicate that. It's a crowded TV world now, and I'm not sure The Wire gets 5 seasons nowadays, but it was fire in a bottle at the time. I'll tell you a very funny anecdote at the end of the run, which is when we were negotiating first, we were again going to be canceled for season 5. Chris needed the money for production for other things, and he had already greenlit Generation Kill, the miniseries that we were doing about the Iraq War, and that was those were not inexpensive 7 hours of TV, and those were already on the they were in the pipeline. So basically, he horse traded with me, and he said, "Look, I'm giving you 7 for Generation Kill. Can you finish? If you can finish The Wire in 10, and if you can get all the actors to come back, because we lost their options, we waited so long. If you can get them all to come back for their regular salaries, without it being a big bump, I'll let you finish. I'll let you have 10 episodes, not 12." So I took it, looked it in the mouth, then took it anyway. And so we did 17 hours of TV that year. But we only had 10 of The Wire. We had to trim a few storylines back. We had to be tighter. There were some things we couldn't get to. But we got done. And after the last episode aired, I got an email from Chris, who was no longer at HBO at the time, but he obviously had set this in motion. And the email just said this. It said, "That was really great. The only thing that could make it better would be 2 extra hours." It's a funny man.
Are they somewhere written down, or is it just rattling around your head in terms of what you might have done with those 2 hours?
Oh no, I mean, there would have been a little bit more to the newspaper story. We would have journeyed a little bit deeper into the codas of the 4 kids. We had a little bit more pipe for that. A little bit more of Cuddy. And Cuddy coming to terms with his new life. That's about it.
Yeah. Love that character.
How'd it go?
We got 1 out of 2 of them motherfuckers, you know?
You mean you motherfuckers come strolling in here all walking tall and shit?
Yo, be out, man. I'm saying, man, we was blazing on them dudes, man. You know what I'm saying? Just got in the heat, man. We was blazing, though. It was like...
All right. Relax, man. I already heard. Go sit down. I'm not tweaking behind none of this. That's one less motherfucker that's breathing than was yesterday. You know what I'm saying? So we all good. But I'm surprised with you, though, man. Shit didn't get by you back when.
Well, my man's fault, man. I unloaded on the younger too soon, man. Gave him enough room to buck and run, man. I fucked that shit up myself, you know?
Hold on. It's on me. I had that kid in my sights, close enough to take off his Kango and half his dome with it. Couldn't squeeze the trigger. Couldn't do it, man.
Why not?
Wasn't in me, I guess. You know, whatever it is in you that lets you flow like you flow and do that thing, it ain't in me no more.
All right. So you done soldiering, but you ain't done. Could use you for what you got in your head. We're gonna put you on a corner. You could be inside.
Oh, man. I ain't making myself clear. The game ain't in me no more. None of it.
But you ain't done shit else. You know what I'm saying? So what you gonna do?
I don't know. But it can't be this.
All right, then. We straight.
See. B, he was a man in his time, you know?
Yeah. He a man today. He a man.
In many ways, this show is quite grim. You've gone on record saying that The Wire is not meant as entertainment, yet it's become this massive hit that's widely regarded as one of the greatest TV shows of all time, and it's something that people keep rewatching and returning to. Looking back on its legacy 20 years on, why do you think that is?
Because human beings actually, network programmers might not, and a lot of the people who govern our narrative intake do not feel this way, but human beings do, which is to say, tragedy is not, if it's done well, and particularly tragedy that argues to the political, it doesn't feel problematic or emotionally draining if it basically gets you to that thing which the Greeks understood, which is catharsis. Medea kills her kids. Antigone walks into the maw of tragedy. Oedipus. These characters, they work because you visualize yourself confronting these forces, and you imagine your own performance, your own emotions, if you were trapped by these circumstances, and that's the power of tragedy. That's the power of the real. And life is inherently tragic. It's comic, it's precious, but we're all going to die, and we're all not going to get everything we want. And life is short. And, there's a reason that human beings invented tragedy, and you have to let it flow. And so much of our culture and so much of our art no longer trusts in that catharsis. So when you finally encounter some of it and you experience it through real humans, it lands.
It wasn't me who fucked up.
Oh, really? So who did? Why the fuck are we here?
Listen, all you need to do is keep your head through the bail hearing. Got a good shot at bringing you home here.
Then what? We're gonna take the weight for all the shit in the trunk of that car? Where's Wallace at? Where's the boy, Strain?
D'Angelo, shut your mouth.
Where's Wallace? That's all I want to know.
Kid, you better think.
Where the fuck is Wallace? Huh? Strain! Strain! Look at me! Look at me! Where the fuck is Wallace? Huh?
I don't want this Payless wearing motherfucker representing me. I'm gonna get my own man.
All right? So just get back in your car and get the fuck back down south.
All right, you stupid motherfucker. You made your decision.
Yeah, I made my decision. Where's Wallace at? Where the fuck is Wallace? Where's Wallace, Strain? Strain! Where the fuck is Wallace?
You're back in Baltimore for We Own This City. Why was now the right time to return to the setting of The Wire?
That was dictated by reality, which is to say, if The Wire's overt political theme was end the drug war, We Own This City is an opportunity to say, end the drug war, but the letters are capitalized and there's a period between every word. Baltimore policing reached the point, this would be a generation and a half after we wrote the last words of The Wire, where you not only had police who were using the wrong metrics to try to quote unquote protect and serve Baltimore, and who maybe believed in the wrong things and were being rewarded for the wrong things. You actually had police who had transformed themselves into gangsters in the form of the true to life gun trace task force, which is in some ways a coda on the drug war. And it forms even though it's not related in any narrative way, but it's in the same milieu, it's a coda to what we were trying to argue with The Wire, which is that nothing good is going to happen until we abandon this drug prohibition, until we return to a form of policing where you're actually trying to respond to real crime, people hurting people, and trying to either prevent or retroactively respond to that. And that's what's fallen apart in my city and in America, which is, we don't solve crimes anymore. We just arrest people, and not necessarily for crimes against other people. And that's what's destroyed not only neighborhoods and people and families. Mass incarceration has done its damage there, but it's actually transformed law enforcement to the point of view where they're completely distrusted, and rightly so, where they have no credibility, and where they are incapable of doing the job we really need them to do. So it was a found opportunity that actually happened in Baltimore in 2017 when that scandal was uncovered.
David, thank you so much for being with us today. We really, really appreciate it. If you have enjoyed this discussion, the BFI is a charity organization and details on how to donate will appear shortly. Make sure you check out my discussion with the other members of the cast, which is also available on the BFI YouTube channel.